From the outside, cruising looks like paradise. Turquoise water, white sand beaches, sunsets, and endless adventures. And yeah, sometimes it really is that perfect. But that's not the whole story. Let's go back to the beginning, because this life is storms and sunsets, breakdowns and breakthroughs, the expected and the completely unexpected. This is how our journey from land life to full-time cruisers really began. Hi everyone, we're Rodney and Patrice from Sailing Vessel Kismet, and we want to share our story today of how we went from 9-to-5 jobs to full-time cruisers. We have been avid boaters and sailors most of our lives, lake sailing. Then we got into some coastal cruising, loved doing charters to the Bahamas, down through the Caribbean, and so we really felt like this was the next step.
We are on our CSY, our Caribbean sailing yacht. It's a 1980. She had a refit in 2019, but the reality of leaving the 9-to-5 and full-time cruising, we had to make her sail ready and live aboard ready, which meant taking what we had and adding a water maker, more lithium, more power, and solar power, as well as all the other additives to make it comfortable living aboard.
Absolutely. And if you're wanting more information about the types of things we did to get Kismet ready for full-time live aboard life, go to sailingkismet.com. We actually have a couple of sections about the types of upgrades that we did, and we even have a free guide that you can download that will hopefully share some tips that you could use as you start upgrading your boat for full-time live aboard.
So we did a bottom job all the way down to the zincs and the prop.
And when we put the boat on the hard in St. Petersburg, Florida, it was in September, and last September, as you may know, we had a couple of really bad hurricanes. So the first one was Helene while our boat was on the hard, and it was not quite a direct hit on Tampa Bay, but we had some pretty bad storm surge, which caused flooding, more flooding than they had ever had in many, many, many years. In fact, it was so high that our boat almost actually came off of the blocks that was holding it in the yard because the water came so high there, which when we talked to one of the owners, they said in 40 years of owning this place, that had never happened to them. But we were really excited because the boat made it through. We splashed it back in the water. We went back to our home marina at this point. About a week later, we're sitting in our marina, and we are in the cone of Hurricane Milton. So, you know, if you can believe it, I guess, you know, they always just hit one right after another, and this one really did.
Oh, this one was bad. You had that conversation when you talk about reality, when you look at each other and you think, I've got to take everything that I want to save off of the boat, because if we come back and the boat's at the bottom of the Manatee River, there's nothing you can do. You can't save it then, right? So you have to take everything that you want. That includes tools and pictures and all your clothes. So we did that. She came through with a minor damage. We soon got it repaired and on to the next step.
Yeah, and it was a really, I think, a humbling time, and a time where we learned that, you know, as much as you prep, as much as you prepare, as much as you do everything to get yourselves and your boat ready, the weather is going to do what the weather does. And there's not really much that we can do to control that.
No, so with that, we had everything prepped, we had everything ready, we moved back aboard, and our next step was to think about throwing the lines.
Well, I will have to say, so we weathered all the hurricanes. We made it through holiday season with a goal of leaving Florida at the very beginning of February.
So we got everything prepared. We had all of our provisioning aboard. We had plenty of fuel. We had done our engine maintenance. We'd done everything possible to think about to get ready to push off. Weather planning. One of the biggest things leaving Tampa Bay in February is the crab pots, right? So you think about, well, the best time to leave is at night, but then you don't want to run into a crab pot. You left early one morning as the sun was breaking. We got out to the Manatee River and then rounded around towards the Gulf. This way we could see any crab pots before we ran over them.
So it was a 3-day trip. So a lot of people decide to break this up if you're coming from the West Coast. A lot of people will work down the coast. Some people will make the stop in Marathon, Florida, or maybe Key West. Our mast is right around 64 feet. So we have some trouble on the intercoastal in Florida, and sometimes we don't like risking it. So our option was to go around Key West, and we decided because it was winter time and the weather windows were so slim crossing the Gulf Stream, we decided we were going to go ahead and do that 3-day trip right from Bradenton all the way to
It's a tugboat. You can't make this up. Hold on, let me show you. As we're filming, there's a boat pulling a barge with some interesting stuff on it. Is our dinghy still out there?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. So
sorry. Yeah, that is realities. We're currently in Luperon, Dominican Republic, and so current time, we've just had the wisp of Hurricane Erin go by us, and we did actually have a 60-foot catamaran here that got hit by lightning and caught fire. So this barge going by actually is part of the rescue group. No one was hurt. Everyone was safe. No one was on board when it happened. No other boats were impacted, but they did have to clean up for hazardous materials and things. So that's one of the work boats. So we're laughing because it's usually very quiet around here, and I'm like, wow, we hear all this loud noise going by. So anyway, back to our story. So we elected again to do 3 days from Bradenton all the way to Bimini, which required 3 overnights. We left in the Gulf. Our first night was just in the Gulf. We made it the second night into Key West.
Yep.
Rodney, talk about that. That was a little crazy too.
So as we enter the channel there at Key West, one of the challenging aspects of it is looking at the channel markers. And we had a small flashlight. Our other flashlight, the battery went down. It's just typical boat stuff.
Okay, I think he's being nice. I think I actually dropped our really good spotlight into the Gulf.
Into the drink.
The drink.
So we lost our big flashlight. So we had to make do. So we get through the channel at about midnight. There's no moon out, so it's pitch dark. Making your way through this, you're relying on all of your instincts, all of your charts and your navionics, watching everything, staying in the middle of the channel. We make it through. We round Key West and make it into Hawks Channel, and we decide with the weather that we had and being still dark to stay in Hawks Channel before we go out. We made it up to about Marathon and then crossed over into the Gulf.
Yeah, and I think it was first light. We had some light, so it was a good time.
Yeah, by then it's time to get out because we didn't want to dodge crab pots anymore. We were ready to get out into the Gulf Stream and head over to Bimini. So we did that. You get in the Gulf Stream and you plan for it. You aim down a little bit to make sure that we can make it up to Bimini. We were going along really good. The third night, the last night, it was my watch. I noticed a ship coming across my bow that stopped. And they started talking to us, hailing us on the VHF, which kind of concerned me. We didn't really know what they wanted, so we turned off all the lights, went black, and went around them. We didn't want to get in their way. We didn't want any problems or anything to do with them. So we diverted, went around them, and ended up closer to Bimini. As the sun came up, there was a squall that came in, and you go back to all those sailing lessons of heaving to. So the wind picked up pretty good. We had never been into the inlet there at Bimini, so we didn't want to go in too early. We were there about an hour and a half early, so we heaved to for about an hour and a half.
And then, lovely weather, mind you.
It was not fun, right? So that was the end of our good weather. Once we got there, we knew we were going to get some weather in Bimini. We watched the ferry as it entered the bay, and we tracked it on AIS. Once I had those tracks, AIS, then we hailed them, and we talked to the captain a few minutes, and then we headed in. So we made it into the marina there, Big Game Marina. They got us tied up. There was a little confusion because there was a boat that came in behind us that was in a hurry to get in. He took our slip, we took their slip, which turned out to be in our advantage because they ended up moving because the wind shifted around from the north and blew them into the dock instead of away from the dock. But you know, in reality, it was kind of one of those things.
That's where this part of the journey ends. Next time, we'll be crossing from Bimini to the Dominican Republic. Have you ever done an overnight passage, or would you? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe so you're along for the ride.